The red sun of Kepler 442c cast long shadows across the rocky ground as 12 cadets stood in formation. Their boots kicked up small clouds of dust in the thin air. Each cadet came from a different world, a different species, but they all had one thing in common. They wanted to graduate from the Galactic Military Academy. Marcus Chen adjusted his standard-issue uniform and tried not to think about how different he looked from the others. While his classmates had thick armor plating, sharp claws, or natural weapons, he just had 2 hands and a brain that never seemed to stop asking questions. The other cadets often reminded him that humans were new to the galaxy. They had only joined the Federation 20 years ago. Instructor Vexhai stepped forward. His 4 arms moved with perfect coordination as he activated the holographic display. The Krillian stood nearly 3 meters tall, his dark green shell gleaming in the alien sunlight. Sharp spikes ran along his shoulders and down his back. When he spoke, his voice carried the authority of someone who had survived 1,000 battles. "This is your final test," Vexhai announced. His black eyes scanned each cadet's face. "You have trained for 4 years. You have learned weapons, tactics, and survival skills. Today, you prove you are ready to serve the Federation." The hologram showed a creature that made several cadets step backward. The Shadow Maw looked like something from a nightmare. Its body stretched 15 meters from nose to tail. Black scales covered its hide like natural armor. 6 amber eyes glowed with intelligence that seemed almost human. Massive claws could tear through starship hulls. But the most terrifying feature was invisible. The creature's mind could reach into yours and fill it with pure terror. "These beasts have killed dozens of trained soldiers," Vexhai continued. "They live in the deep caves of this planet's crimson wastes. Your mission is simple. Track one down. Capture it. Bring back proof that you succeeded." Zaktar, a Thraxian shock trooper, raised his armored fist. "Instructor, will we hunt as a team? You may work together or alone. The choice is yours." Vexahai's mandibles clicked together in what might have been amusement. "But remember, there are 12 of you and only 1 Shadow Maw in the target area. Not everyone will get a chance to prove themselves if you work as one group." Marcus felt his stomach tighten. The other cadets were already forming alliances. The 3 Centauri berserkers naturally gravitated toward each other. Their red skin seemed to pulse with barely contained rage. The 2 Void Stalkers from the Outer Rim whispered in their clicking language, planning ambush tactics. Even the usually solitary Nexari Crystalborn had found a partner among the hegemony representatives. Nobody approached Marcus. Seklon, one of the Centauri, turned toward him with a grin that showed too many sharp teeth. "Human? Perhaps you should wait at the landing zone. This work is for real warriors." The other aliens laughed. Marcus had heard jokes like this for 4 years. Humans were soft. Humans were weak. Humans had no natural weapons or armor. Why the Federation had accepted them into the military remained a mystery to most species. "I'll take my chances," Marcus replied quietly. "Your chances of dying, maybe," muttered Rixka, a Void Stalker whose black fur seemed to absorb light. "Your people have never faced anything like a Shadow Maw." Marcus wanted to argue, but he knew they were probably right. Earth's most dangerous predators were nothing compared to the galaxy's apex hunters. Bears, tigers, and sharks seemed like house pets next to creatures that could tear through metal with their minds. Vexhai distributed tracking equipment and survival gear. Each cadet received a locator beacon, emergency medical supplies, and 3 days of rations. The weapons locker offered plasma rifles, neural disruptors, and gravity nets designed to restrain large creatures. Marcus selected a basic plasma sidearm and a medical kit with extra supplies. While the others loaded up with heavy weapons, he spent time at the computer terminal studying everything the database contained about Shadow Maws. The files were mostly military reports focused on how to kill them quickly. but scattered among the tactical data, Marcus found fragments of behavioral observations. Shadow maws preferred deep caves with multiple escape routes. They were most active during the planet's 18-hour nights. Unlike most predators, they showed complex problem-solving abilities and what some researchers described as emotional responses to threats against their territory. "Still reading bedtime stories?" Zaktar asked as he strapped a gravity cannon to his back. "You should worry more about staying alive and less about animal psychology." "Knowledge keeps you alive," Marcus answered, copying the behavioral files to his portable reader. "Weapons keep you alive," Seklon corrected. "Your soft human brain will not stop Shadowmaw claws." The transport shuttle lifted off at dawn, carrying the cadets toward the Crimson Wastes. Through the viewport, Marcus watched the landscape change from the Academy's green valleys to harsh red rock formations. Twisted spires of crystal jutted from the ground like broken teeth. Deep canyons carved maze-like patterns through the stone. Somewhere in those caves waited a creature that had never been captured alive. As the shuttle approached the drop zone, Vexhai gave his final instructions. "You have 72 hours. The shuttle will return to this exact location. If you are not here with proof of success, you fail. If you are here but cannot prove you faced the Shadow Maw, you fail. If you are not here at all." He let the sentence hang in the recycled air. The shuttle's ramp lowered, and hot wind filled the passenger compartment. The smell of alien minerals and something that might have been sulfur made Marcus's nose wrinkle. Red sand swirled in small dust devils across the rocky ground. One by one, the cadets jumped down and activated their tracking equipment. The Shadow Maw's trail led northeast, toward the deepest part of the canyon system. Marcus watched his classmates form their hunting parties and disappear into the maze of stone. Soon he stood alone at the landing site. The shuttle lifted off, leaving him in the vast silence of an alien world. Marcus shouldered his pack and activated his tracker. The device showed faint traces of Shadow Maw pheromones leading toward a particularly dark canyon entrance about 2 kilometers away. As he began walking, Marcus thought about what made humans different from the other species. They were stronger, faster, and better armed. But maybe that was exactly the problem. Maybe the reason nobody had ever captured a Shadow Maw alive was because everyone tried to fight it like a mindless beast instead of understanding what it really was. The Crimson Wastes lived up to their name. Red sand covered everything like dried blood. Strange rock formations twisted toward the purple sky, and deep cracks in the ground suggested vast cave systems below. Marcus followed the pheromone trail at his own pace while his classmates disappeared into the distance ahead of him. Through his communicator, he could hear them coordinating their attack plan. The 3 Zentauri berserkers wanted to charge straight into the creature's lair. The Void Stalkers preferred setting traps and ambushes. Zaktar and his Thraxian partner argued for using heavy weapons to collapse cave entrances and force the Shadow Maw into the open. Marcus turned down the volume and focused on the landscape around him. The tracking device showed stronger pheromone readings near certain types of rock formations. The Shadow Maw seemed to prefer areas with good drainage and multiple exit routes. Smart creature. It understood the value of having escape options. After 2 hours of walking, Marcus reached the main trail junction where the other cadets had regrouped. Their boot prints in the red sand told a story of hurried consultation and equipment checks. Discarded packaging from high-energy rations suggested they had eaten quickly before moving deeper into the canyons. The trail led toward a series of connected caves that descended into darkness. Marcus activated his portable scanner and studied the readings. The Shadow Maw's scent was strongest here, but something else caught his attention. The walls of these caves showed scratch marks from the creature's claws. But they were not random gouges. The scratches formed patterns, almost like territorial markers. Marcus knelt beside one set of markings and ran his fingers over the carved stone. The scratches were precise and deliberate. Whatever made them had been trying to communicate something. A warning, maybe, or a claim of ownership. His communicator crackled to life. "Contact! Contact! We have visual on the target!" Plasma fire lit up the canyon ahead. Marcus heard Zaktar shouting orders while gravity weapons discharged with their distinctive whining sound. Something roared in response. The sound was so deep and powerful that it seemed to come from the planet itself. Marcus ran toward the noise. The cave system opened into a vast underground chamber lit by his classmates' weapons fire. The Shadow Maw stood on a rock ledge about 30 meters away. Even at this distance, the creature was magnificent and terrifying. Its black scales reflected the plasma blasts like mirrors. 6 amber eyes tracked multiple targets at once, while its powerful legs kept it balanced on the narrow ledge. But what struck Marcus most was the intelligence in those eyes. This was not a mindless beast. This was a thinking creature defending its home. The coordinated attack was falling apart. Seklon's gravity net had missed entirely, creating a crater in the cave floor instead of capturing the target. The Void Stalker's ambush positions were useless because the Shadow Maw had chosen the high ground. Their stealth technology meant nothing to a creature that could sense minds. "It's in my head!" screamed one of the Nexari cadets. She dropped her weapon and pressed her hands against her crystal skull. "Make it stop!" The Shadow Maw's psychic attack was not random violence. Marcus realized it was defending itself the only way it knew how. When faced with superior numbers and advanced weapons, the creature used its natural abilities to create confusion and fear. 2 more cadets broke ranks and fled toward the cave entrance. Their minds could not handle the psychic pressure. Zaktar tried to rally the remaining hunters, but his orders were lost in the chaos of weapons fire and panicked shouts. Marcus pressed himself against the cave wall and observed the battle. The Shadow Maw was winning, but it was not trying to kill anyone. Its claws could have easily sliced through the cadets' armor, but instead it used controlled swipes to destroy their weapons. When it roared, the sound was meant to frighten rather than challenge. This creature was not a mindless killer. It was a parent protecting its territory. The realization hit Marcus like a physical blow. He pulled out his portable reader and searched through the behavioral data again. There, buried in a footnote from a xenobiologist's report. Shadow Maws exhibit heightened territorial aggression during breeding seasons. Nesting sites are defended with extreme prejudice. The battle reached its climax when Zaktar fired his gravity cannon directly at the creature's head. The Shadow Maw dodged with impossible grace, and the energy blast brought down a section of the cave ceiling. Rock fragments rained down on both predator and hunters. "Fall back!" Zaktar ordered. "Regroup outside and call for heavy support!" The remaining cadets retreated through the cave mouth, their formation broken and their confidence shattered. Marcus waited until they were gone before approaching the chamber where the Shadow Maw still stood guard. The creature's psychic emanations washed over him like cold water. But instead of terror, Marcus felt something else: wariness, caution, and underneath it all a deep sadness that seemed almost human in its intensity. Marcus understood that feeling. He had felt it himself many times during his years at the academy. The loneliness of being different, the exhaustion that came from constantly defending yourself against those who saw you as a threat. Outside the cave, his classmates were arguing about their next move. "We need plasma charges," Seklon was saying. "Bring down the entire chamber." "That would destroy the proof we need," Rixka pointed out. "Dead creature equals mission failure." "Better than no creature at all," Zaktar replied. "This thing is too dangerous to take alive." Marcus listened to their debate and made his own decision. He activated his communicator and spoke calmly into the microphone. "This is Marcus. I'm going to try a different approach." The conversation stopped. After a moment, Seklon's voice came back sharp with disbelief. Human, do not be stupid. That creature will kill you in seconds. Maybe, Marcus replied, but your way is not working. Give me 12 hours. If I fail, you can try whatever you want. And if you succeed? Zaktar asked. Marcus looked toward the cave entrance where the Shadow Maw waited in the darkness. Then maybe we will learn that some problems cannot be solved with weapons. He turned off his communicator before anyone could argue. The other cadets would wait at the cave entrance and place bets on how long he would survive. But Marcus had a different plan. Instead of trying to capture the Shadow Maw, he was going to try something that no Federation warrior had ever attempted. He was going to try talking to it. Marcus checked his medical kit and food supplies. Then he walked into the cave system alone, following the scent trail deeper into the Shadow Maw's domain. Behind him, his classmates' voices faded into whispers, then silence. The creature was waiting for him somewhere in the darkness ahead. But for the first time since the mission began, Marcus was not afraid. Marcus moved through the cave system like he was walking through a library instead of a predator's den. He kept his plasma weapon holstered and his hands visible. Every few steps he stopped and listened to the sounds around him. Water dripped somewhere in the distance. Air moved through hidden passages. And underneath it all, he could hear something that sounded almost like breathing. The Shadow Maw's scent grew stronger as he descended deeper into the caves, but Marcus noticed other smells too. Fresh water from an underground stream, the metallic tang of blood, but old blood that had dried days ago, and something else. Something warm and alive that reminded him of the kennels back on Earth, where he had volunteered as a teenager. The main chamber opened before him like a cathedral made of stone. Crystals in the walls caught and reflected his flashlight beam, creating patches of soft light throughout the darkness. And there, on a raised platform of rock, stood the Shadow Maw. Up close, the creature was even more impressive than the holographic recordings had suggested. Its black scales shifted color slightly in the changing light, showing hints of deep blue and purple. The 6 amber eyes tracked Marcus's movement with an intelligence that was clearly not animal. This was a thinking being, not a mindless monster. Marcus stopped about 20 meters away and slowly sat down on the cave floor. He placed his weapon on the ground beside him and opened his hands to show they were empty. Then he did something that would have seemed insane to his classmates. He started talking. "Hello," he said quietly. "I know you can understand me. Maybe not the words, but the meaning behind them. I'm not here to hurt you." The Shadow Maw's head tilted slightly to one side. Its psychic emanations probed the edges of Marcus's mind like gentle fingers. Instead of resisting, Marcus relaxed and let the creature sense his thoughts. He had nothing to hide. What the Shadow Maw found surprised it. This small being's mind contained no bloodlust or desire for conquest. There was curiosity, yes, and some fear, but also something the creature had never encountered from other species. There was genuine concern for its well-being. Marcus noticed the way the Shadow Maw favored its left rear leg, a slight limp that became obvious once you knew what to look for. He also saw the defensive way it positioned itself in front of a particular area of the chamber. The creature was protecting something. "You're hurt," Marcus said, reaching slowly for his medical kit. "And you have young ones back there, don't you? That's why you fought so hard when the others attacked. You weren't being aggressive, you were being a parent." The word parent seemed to resonate somehow. The Shadow Maw's psychic touch became less cautious and more curious. It had never encountered a being that understood the concept of protecting family. Marcus opened his medical kit and held up an antiseptic spray. "This will help with infections," he explained, even though he knew the creature could not understand his words, but it could understand his intentions through the psychic link. "I had a dog when I was young. She got hurt protecting her puppies from a wild animal. I learned how to clean wounds and make them heal faster." Slowly, carefully, Marcus stood up and took a step forward. The Shadow Maw tensed but did not attack. Another step. Another. The creature's eyes never left him, but its aggressive stance began to relax. Marcus could feel the internal struggle happening in the Shadow Maw's mind. Every instinct told it to drive away this intruder. But the creature's intelligence recognized something different about this particular threat. This being was not acting like a predator or a rival. It was acting like a helper. When Marcus was 5 meters away, he stopped and placed the medical kit on the ground. Then he backed away and sat down again. "It's yours if you want it," he said. "No tricks, no traps, just medicine for someone who is hurt." The Shadow Maw approached the kit cautiously. Its claws, which could slice through metal, delicately picked up the small container. The creature's psychic senses examined it thoroughly, finding no hidden weapons or dangerous chemicals. Just medicine, exactly as the strange being had promised. Marcus reached into his pack and pulled out one of his food rations. It was a protein bar designed for human metabolism, but many species in the galaxy could digest it safely. He broke it in half and tossed one piece toward the Shadow Maw. The creature sniffed the offering suspiciously. It was not hungry, but the gesture itself was significant. Among intelligent species throughout the galaxy, sharing food was a universal sign of peaceful intentions. This small being was offering the most basic form of friendship. The Shadow Maw ate the protein bar. The taste was strange but not unpleasant. More importantly, the action created a connection between predator and visitor. They had shared a meal. In the creature's simple understanding of social bonds, this made them temporary allies rather than enemies. Marcus spent the next hour sitting quietly in the chamber while the Shadow Maw grew accustomed to his presence. Gradually, the creature's natural curiosity overcame its caution. It approached Marcus's position and extended one massive claw toward his hand. The touch was surprisingly gentle. Marcus felt the Shadow Maw's mind probe deeper into his thoughts, searching for deception or hidden aggression. What it found instead were memories of Earth, images of humans caring for injured animals, pictures of veterinarians healing sick creatures, scenes of people who dedicated their lives to protecting endangered species. The Shadow Maw had never encountered this concept before. In its experience, intelligent beings were either threats to be driven away or prey to be hunted. The idea that a creature would voluntarily help another species without expecting anything in return was completely foreign to its understanding of the universe. But the evidence was right there in Marcus's mind. Humans regularly helped animals that could never repay them. They built shelters for homeless creatures. They spent resources healing injuries they had not caused. They even risked their own lives to protect species they had never met. Marcus felt the exact moment when the Shadow Maw's attitude toward him changed completely. The psychic emanations that had been wary and defensive became curious and almost grateful. The creature withdrew its claw and made a sound that was halfway between a purr and a rumble. "You understand now, don't you?" Marcus said quietly. "We don't have to be enemies. I just want to help." In response, the Shadow Maw did something unprecedented in the recorded history of first contact with its species. It stepped aside and allowed Marcus to see what it had been protecting. In a hollow carved into the rock wall, two smaller versions of the adult Shadow Maw lay curled together. They were obviously young, probably less than a year old. One had a bandaged front leg that showed signs of infection. The other appeared healthy, but stayed close to its injured sibling. Marcus's heart melted. These were not monsters or mindless beasts. They were a family. The adult was not just defending territory, it was protecting its children from what it perceived as a threat from alien invaders. "They're beautiful," Marcus whispered, and he meant every word. The Shadow Maw heard the genuine admiration in his voice and felt the corresponding emotion through their psychic link. For the first time in its life, The creature experienced something it had never thought possible. It trusted a member of another species completely. Marcus spent the rest of the day learning about Shadow Maw family life. The adult, which he began thinking of as the mother, showed him how the cubs played and learned. The injured young one had hurt its leg in a fall while exploring too far from the nest. The wound had become infected because there was no way for the mother to clean it properly with her large claws. "May I help?" Marcus asked, gesturing toward his medical kit. The mother Shadow Maw considered his request carefully. Through their psychic link, she could feel his genuine desire to help her offspring. There was no deception in his mind, no hidden agenda. This strange creature simply wanted to heal her child, because it was the right thing to do. She gently picked up the injured cub and placed it near Marcus. The young Shadow Maw was about the size of a large earth dog, but its scales were still soft, and its eyes held the curiosity of youth. When Marcus reached toward the bandaged leg, the cub whimpered but did not pull away. Marcus worked slowly and carefully. The infection was serious, but not life-threatening. He cleaned the wound with antiseptic solution, applied antibiotic gel, and wrapped it in fresh bandages from his kit. The cub remained perfectly still throughout the process, seeming to understand that this odd creature was trying to help. "There," Marcus said when he finished. "That should heal much better now. Keep it clean and dry, and change the bandage every day." The mother touched the cub's new bandage with one delicate claw tip, then looked at Marcus with something that could only be described as gratitude. She made a low rumbling sound that vibrated through the cave floor. Marcus offered more of his food rations to the family. The mother tried everything he gave her, then shared the acceptable items with her cubs. They ate together in companionable silence while the crystal formations cast moving patterns of light around the chamber. As evening approached, Marcus noticed that the mother Shadow Maw was still favoring her injured leg. The limp was slight, but it would slow her down if she needed to run or fight. He studied her movement patterns and had an idea. "I think I can help with that too," he said, reaching for his climbing gear. The harness he improvised from rope and fabric would have looked primitive to his classmates, but it was perfectly designed for the Shadow Maw's unique body structure. The straps distributed weight across her strongest muscle groups while providing support for the injured leg. Most importantly, the harness could be removed instantly if she felt threatened. Marcus approached with the harness in his hands, moving slowly and broadcasting his peaceful intentions through their psychic link. The mother examined the device carefully, understanding its purpose through the images in Marcus's mind. She had seen how humans used similar devices to help injured animals on Earth. When Marcus gestured for her to try it on, she lowered her massive head and allowed him to fit the straps around her body. The harness settled into place perfectly, providing immediate relief for her injured leg. She took a few experimental steps and rumbled with pleasure at the reduced pain. "Better?" Marcus asked. The response came not in words, but in emotion transmitted directly to his mind. Relief, gratitude, and something else that took Marcus a moment to identify: affection. This magnificent predator had begun to think of him as a friend. They spent the evening together like an unlikely family. The cubs played gentle games that tested their developing coordination while their mother watched proudly. Marcus shared stories about Earth animals through the psychic link, showing the Shadow Maw's images of lions caring for their young, wolves hunting in packs, and dolphins protecting injured pod members. The mother was fascinated by these glimpses of other worlds and other species. Her own planet had few large predators, and she had never considered that intelligence might exist beyond her own kind. Through Marcus's memories, she discovered that the universe was full of thinking beings, some of whom devoted their lives to protecting and healing others. As night fell, Marcus knew he faced a difficult decision. His classmates would be waiting for him to return. probably planning their next attack on the Shadow Maw's lair. He could not stay here forever, no matter how much he enjoyed the company of his new friends. But he also could not leave without completing his mission. The Academy required proof that he had faced the Shadow Maw. His classmates expected him to return with evidence of victory or not at all. Through their psychic link, the Mother Shadow Maw sensed his internal conflict. She understood that he was caught between two worlds, two sets of obligations. In her own way, she wanted to help him just as he had helped her family. Marcus explained the situation as best he could, using mental images and emotions rather than words. He showed her the academy, his classmates, and the requirement to return with proof of success. He also showed her his fears about what the other cadets might do if they decided to attack the cave again with heavier weapons. The mother considered his dilemma for a long time. She was intelligent enough to understand the broader implications. If Marcus failed his mission, other warriors would come. They would hunt her family with increasingly dangerous weapons until someone succeeded in killing or capturing them. But if Marcus returned successfully, he might be able to protect her species from future attacks. The decision she reached surprised even herself. Through the psychic link, she communicated an idea that was both simple and revolutionary. Instead of Marcus capturing her, she would come with him voluntarily. She would help him complete his mission in exchange for a promise to protect her cubs and her species from unnecessary harm. Marcus was stunned by the proposal. "You want to come with me? Back to the academy?" The response was calm and certain. The Mother Shadow Maw had made her choice based on logic and trust. She would rather face the unknown dangers of the academy than watch her family be hunted by an endless stream of warriors seeking to prove themselves. Marcus felt tears forming in his eyes. No human had ever been trusted so completely by an alien predator. This magnificent creature was willing to risk everything based on her faith in his character. "I promise," he said aloud, knowing she would feel the sincerity behind his words. "I will do everything in my power to protect your species. You have my word." The Mother Shadow Maw touched his shoulder gently with one massive claw. In that moment, Marcus realized that he had accomplished something far greater than capturing a dangerous beast. He had made a friend across the boundaries of species, language, and evolutionary development. They spent their last night in the cave together, making plans for the morning. The cubs would remain hidden in the deepest part of the chamber where other humans were unlikely to find them. The mother would wear Marcus's harness and accompany him back to the academy as living proof of his success. But more than that, she would be living proof that the galaxy's most feared predator was actually an intelligent being capable of friendship, trust, and voluntary cooperation. Marcus hoped that his classmates and instructors would be ready for such a revolutionary discovery. As dawn approached, the Mother Shadow Maw prepared to leave her home and her children to venture into the unknown world of galactic civilization. She did so not as a captive, but as an ambassador of her species and a friend to the strange little creature who had shown her what kindness looked like. The morning sun cast long shadows across the Academy's temporary camp when Marcus and the Shadow Maw approached the perimeter. The other cadets were gathered around their equipment, checking weapons and arguing about the best way to assault the creature's lair. None of them noticed the two figures walking calmly across the red sand until Rixka happened to look up from her targeting scope. The Void Stalker's scream of alarm brought every head around to stare at the impossible sight. Marcus Chen, the soft human who should have been dead 12 hours ago, was walking peacefully beside the galaxy's most feared predator. The Shadow Maw moved with fluid grace, its black scales gleaming in the alien sunlight. And around its powerful body was what looked like a harness made from climbing rope. Zaktar's hand moved instinctively toward his weapon, then froze as his mind processed what he was seeing. The creature showed no signs of aggression. Its 6 amber eyes were alert but calm. Most shocking of all, it seemed to be staying close to Marcus by choice rather than force. "Nobody move!" Marcus called out as he approached the camp. "She's friendly, but sudden movements might startle her." "Friendly?" Seklon's voice cracked with disbelief. "That thing tried to kill us yesterday." "That thing was protecting her children," Marcus replied, "just like any parent would do when strangers attack their home." The other cadets formed a loose semicircle around the approaching pair, their weapons ready, but not quite aimed. The Shadow Maw's psychic emanations washed over them, but instead of terror, they felt something completely unexpected. The creature was curious about them, not hostile. Instructor HFY emerged from the command shelter, all 4 of his arms reaching for different weapons. He stopped mid-stride when he saw the Shadow Maw. In 3 centuries of military service, the veteran Krillian had never encountered anything like this scene. "Cadet Chen," HFY said carefully, "explain yourself." Marcus gestured toward his companion. "Her name is... well, I can't pronounce it. But she understands the concept of names. She's not just an animal instructor. She's intelligent, sentient. She has a family and feelings and the ability to make complex decisions." The Shadow Maw lifted her great head and looked directly at HFY. The instructor felt the creature's mind touch his own. A brief psychic contact that conveyed greeting rather than threat. His 4 eyes widened in shock. In all the military reports about Shadow Maws, no one had mentioned that their psychic abilities could be used for communication instead of warfare. "This is impossible," Zaktar muttered. "Shadow Maws are killing machines. They attack everything that moves." "They attack everything that threatens them," Marcus corrected. "Look at her now. Does she seem like a mindless killer?" The creature was indeed behaving in a way that contradicted every assumption the cadets had about her species. She moved with careful deliberation, avoiding sudden gestures that might alarm the gathered aliens. Her psychic emanations remained calm and non-threatening. Most remarkably, she seemed to be observing their behavior with obvious intelligence. Marcus reached up and gently touched the Shadow Maw's neck. She leaned into the contact like an enormous cat enjoying attention from a trusted friend. Several cadets stepped backward at this display of obvious affection between predator and prey. "She came with me voluntarily," Marcus explained. "She understands that I need proof of success to graduate. But more than that, she wants her species to be understood instead of just hunted. She's willing to be an ambassador if we're willing to listen." HFY activated his recording equipment and approached slowly. The Shadow Maw watched him come but showed no signs of alarm. When the instructor was 3 meters away, she made a low rumbling sound that somehow conveyed polite acknowledgement. "Remarkable," HFY whispered. "She's trying to communicate." Marcus nodded. "She's been communicating with me all night. Not in words, but in concepts and emotions. She understands far more than we give her credit for. Her species might be one of the most intelligent in the galaxy. But we've been too busy trying to kill them to notice." The implications of this revelation began to sink in among the gathered cadets. If Shadow Maws were truly sentient beings, then every hunting expedition sent against them had been an act of war rather than pest control. The Federation had been systematically exterminating an intelligent species without realizing it. Rixka lowered her weapon completely. "If they're sentient, then what we've been doing is genocide," Marcus finished quietly. "But we can change that. We can be the first to make peaceful contact instead of violent conquest." The Shadow Maw seemed to sense the shift in the group's attitude. Her psychic touch grew more confident, reaching out to each cadet in turn. She was not trying to dominate their minds, but simply to introduce herself as one thinking being to another. One by one, the cadets lowered their weapons. Even Seklon, who had been most vocal about human weakness, found himself staring at Marcus with something approaching respect. "How did you know?" the Centauri asked. How did you realize what she really was? Marcus shrugged. I watched how she fought yesterday. She could have killed any of us easily, but she chose not to. She destroyed our weapons instead of attacking our bodies. That's not animal behavior. That's the decision of someone who values life. Vexahai completed his recordings and stepped back to consider the situation. As an instructor, he was supposed to evaluate whether the cadets had successfully completed their mission. By any traditional measure, Marcus had exceeded all expectations. He had not only captured a shadow maw, but had made peaceful first contact with an unknown intelligent species. Cadet Chen, the instructor said formally, you have accomplished something unprecedented. You have proven that solutions exist beyond violence and conquest. The shadow maw made another rumbling sound and gently nuzzled Marcus's shoulder. Through their psychic link, he felt her gratitude and affection. She had taken an enormous risk by trusting him, and he had not let her down. What happens now? Asked Zaktar. Marcus looked at his classmates, then at Vexahai, and finally at his friend beside him. Now we go back to the Federation with proof that intelligence can be found in unexpected places. We recommend that shadow maw hunting be suspended immediately pending full diplomatic contact. And we write new protocols for first contact that prioritize understanding over conquest. The shuttle arrived on schedule, but the return journey was unlike anything the pilot had ever experienced. The shadow maw rode in the cargo bay, calm and cooperative. The cadets who had begun the mission as competitors ended it as witnesses to a revolution in how the galaxy approached unknown species. Word of Marcus's achievement spread quickly through the academy and beyond. Within days, xenobiologists and diplomats were requesting permission to study the peaceful contact protocols he had developed. The Federation Council voted unanimously to reclassify shadow maws as a protected sentient species. Marcus graduated with the highest honors in Academy history, but he turned down offers for prestigious military postings. Instead, he joined the Federation's new Department of Peaceful First Contact, where his unique talents could be used to prevent future conflicts between species. The shadow maw mother returned to her cubs with medical supplies and the knowledge that her species was no longer alone in the universe. The galaxy suddenly seemed less dangerous and more full of possibility than she had ever imagined. And in the Academy's archives, a new case study was added to the curriculum. Sometimes the greatest victories come not from defeating your enemies, but from discovering that you never had enemies in the first place.